We are joined here. We're back here at Grace Hall in the campus of Lehigh University. Shel Segan and Larry Sheridan bringing you all the action. We were joined by the great Marvin Walensik from, well, he was previously from Norristown. I think he's still there, one of the great Brown University wrestlers in his day. Marvin comes to all the Lehigh meets. I remember Marvin was part of a team photo of the Brown wrestling team in 1956, and there were only 6 guys in the photo.
God, that's 30 years ago.
28-0. Lehigh out in front now, here with Andy Rice from Lowville, New York. And his opponent is Mike Ekberg, a junior from Danville, Pennsylvania.
Ekberg underneath, but the two boys are muscling each other, and somebody's going to end up in the bottom real quick. Ekberg's throwing on the half. He's got to get the lift, but now he's on the bad end of the deal, and he'll end up in the bottom. And the takedown goes to Andy Rice, the junior from Lowville, New York.
All right, watch that. Watch that.
Caught Mike Ekberg. Okay, 1:50 left in the first period.
Tom Togus, who looked very good in his match, winning by a technical fall.
Well,
he's got a lot of tape around there.
Well, I mentioned to you, he kind of injured it in practice, and he wrestled out there, and I guess what you see underneath there is ice.
Certainly didn't look like he was hurting much in that match. He was very impressive.
I didn't see him go back and get a can of spinach, so it is a muscle that's causing that bulge. It's a pack of ice. Halfway through this first period, 1:30 left. Ekberg, Ekberg trying to get out, but Rice maintaining control.
Move up.
Ekberg was a surprise at this weight class in the tryouts. Everybody thought that Derek Brophy, who was a highly sought-after recruit last year and didn't wrestle, would come in to play, but in the tryouts, he lost. Excuse me, a freshman. Ekberg beat him, so we have a shift in weights. We're going to have Brophy coming up next.
All time. Both guys working all time.
Andy Rice is a real veteran of this Cornell team. I guess you'd have to say, Larry, he probably is the veteran. We've seen him for a couple of seasons, he along with Eric Schaub.
And, of course, the next guy out for Cornell is their team captain this year.
And so the first match of the season for Lehigh University is running true to form, the way a lot of people pictured Lehigh wrestling would turn out this season. And that is with Lehigh doing well at the lower weights and perhaps having some difficulty at the upper weights. Off the edge of the mat they go, and it's still a 2-0 lead. There you see George Lieberman, who has supported Lehigh wrestling for a long time, and of course his sons Mark and Mike, of course, long time great Lehigh wrestlers. George talking to Peter Likens. George now, of course, one of the principals of Lieberman Appaloochee Advertising right here in our own Lehigh Valley. Period comes to a conclusion, and it's a 2-1 lead for Andy Rice.
Takes neutral. Get a set.
Second period on the way, 2-1 lead. Off they go.
Another takedown, 4-1 score.
I see Joe Ryan at the edge of the mat. Perhaps we can get a shot of Joe, as Joe has been a fixture, we might say. There he is, that smiling face, the Buddha, as we refer to him. The old Buddha, Joe Ryan, who has been taking pictures for many, many seasons. What season would this be for Joe? He'd been here, I guess, ever since we've been doing these matches.
He took my baby pictures, so it's been quite a while.
18 seasons here and over 50 years in photography for Joe Ryan.
Well, Shell, I got to tell you, we and I were talking earlier tonight that if you make a mistake, go up to it. I made a blunder, not a mistake, and because my mind is working early in the season, and I'm thinking of Wilkes, and that guy down on the bench is not Gary Siegel, your cousin. It just dawned on me it's Wayne Caton. I had Siegel in mind because he's up at Wilkes, where we're going next week.
Well, we'll forgive you. He's from Syracuse.
That's right. And I was thinking of Gary Siegel. He's up at Wilkes, and we're wrestling Wilkes, and I misidentified him and said it was Gary Siegel. It's Wayne Caton. And, of course, the guy took second in the Nationals. I'm not going to make a mistake with him. 30 seconds left. Still 4-1 and plenty of time advantage for Cornell.
We got the university right anyway, Larry.
Yep.
And we also got the fact that we were talking about two very fine wrestlers.
Top man, you're on.
And speaking of fine wrestler, Andy Knoll, former F&M great, encourages a Cornell wrestler along.
No.
As Andy Rice is having an easy job so far with Lehigh's Mike Ekberg.
Period end. Second period over. 4-1 lead. Third period. 4-1 lead for Andy Rice. This one, of course, is as close as Cornell has got to perhaps winning one. Rice not only has a 4-1 lead, but he has over 3.5 minutes riding time. And so Ekberg will have to do something rather dramatic if he is going to pull this out for Lehigh, and he's brought down to the mat again by Andy Rice. Cornell, I don't know how far back prior to last season, Larry, they've gone, but Cornell has gone something like 17 consecutive bouts without putting a point on the board against Lehigh over the last 2 years, and this one looks like it could well
They're going to break the ice on this one. So far, with 1.5 minutes left in the bout. 4-1 lead, and well over, definitely a guaranteed point for time advantage. Has over 4 minutes so far. Andy Rice Jr. Shell, I was thinking of the Pennsylvania. I mentioned earlier that we got a Danville grappler out there, and we had a wrestler from Pennsylvania earlier out of Wallingford, Eric Schaub. How many were these Pennsylvania, these high school wrestlers going to? And I'll tell you one school that got its lion's share of wrestlers this year, and it would be a surprise. And in fact, I caught a couple of the wrestling experts. I said, it's a Philadelphia school. And they said Temple. I said, no, Temple's out of the Easterns this year. Temple gave up wrestling. And by the way, Rutgers is going to be take Temple's place in the Easterns. I got that information from Gene Williams. So Rutgers is in this year as the 16th team, as we have an injury here. And they said, well, is it Penn? I said, no. As a matter of fact, Penn even has a new wrestling coach. But they said, well, who is it? I said, can't you? Villanova. I said, Villanova is going to start wrestling this year. And they're going to start with a six-meet schedule. But I said, it's not Villanova. And they're all sitting around. It's Drexel. Drexel got quite a lion's share of wrestlers this year. And, of course, you know who the alumni director is down there, and we'll be hearing from him, Denny Deal. He's now down at Drexel. As Cornell's wrestler is putting Lehigh's shoulders towards the bat, and definitely get near fall points. 3 of them making the final score with time advantage, 8-1.
And so Andy Rice breaks the ice, wins for the first time for Cornell. in a lot of bouts. Cornell finally on the boards with the field goal, and it's 28-3.